Well, this is it, folks. Rugby World Cup is here. We have lineups for France and New Zealand. Game 1 of the 2023 Rugby World Cup from Paris this weekend. Our excitement levels are pretty real. We're going to go through the lineups, some stats, some predictions, recent history, and you guys can let us know your thoughts, how to watch, Super Brew pool, all that kind of jazz as well. This has been coming a long time. And it just feels crazy that we're finally actually seeing lineups come out. I've seen the Namibian lineups out and the South African lineups out. But game 1 is France against New Zealand. Some are saying this is basically the match to decide who finishes number 1 and who finishes number 2 in the pool. Although Italy will be trying their best to try and kind of upset that. France, they can probably get their country behind them. If they get a nice home win, the All Blacks will certainly have a bit of extra pressure on Ian Foster if he manages to lose the first ever pool game for the All Blacks in their World Cup history. But it's game 1. And I, for one, am pretty happy to see pretty excited to see how this goes. France, obviously, their injuries in recent times have been well documented. They are missing Romain Ntamack for the Rugby World Cup. Likewise, Paul Willemse. Dante is also out injured. So, and Cyril Bai as well, the prop. So they've had setbacks initially, but at least Dante and Bai are still remaining in the squad. And the guys they've brought in are pretty bloody solid. They've got Wardy, Marchand, and Atonio in the front row. So Wardy comes in at loose head. He didn't play in that final game against Australia, but he is back in the squad. Marchand has been consistently one of the best hookers in World Rugby over this cycle and is certainly a real menace at the breakdown. And then Atonio, it's his kind of last dance in French colours. He's going to retire from international rugby, but he'll be looking to try and get on top of the All Blacks guys at scrum time. Woki and Flament is kind of a skills second row. Without Willemse, they don't have necessarily that kind of big enforcer type second rower in the starting 15. They do have one on the bench, but these two guys, Woki and Flament, have played together before. Flament played the number 4 jersey in their last match, so he switches to number 5. And Woki comes up from the bench to get a start. Woki, in terms of guys who will disrupt your ball in the air and just the most athletic guys in the air, Cameron Woki is certainly one of you guys to watch out for. Francois, Cros, Charles Ollivon, and Gregory Alldritt is a pretty consistent back row, and they each bring different aspects to the game. Cros is certainly the tackling machine of the bunch. He's averaging, I think, 16 odd tackles a game in the kind of recent summer series. Ollivon is just Mr. Can do it all. He can win lineouts, he can score tries, he can make tackles, he can find gaps, he can offload, and then Alldritt is your absolute workhorse. He will carry for days. Expect him to be the top carrier of the match if France get a bit of ball behind them. Probably going to be the French top ball carrier. Antoine Dupont has maybe got the most pressure of any of the French players on him. He is arguably the best player in the world. He is the French captain, and he's the one who's essentially the poster boy for this French squad. We know what he can do, man. I mean, if anything, he's been quiet by his own standards in recent times, but by his own standards, he's still setting up tries. He's still breaking tackles. He's still booting the leather off the ball. So if he can find top gear at the World Cup, France's chances look a lot better. Jalibert is in there at 10, certainly one of the more attacking-minded 10s we've seen. We saw a bit of what he could do against Australia, so the All Blacks will be very, very mindful. They asked him in the press conference, what are they thinking about this guy? They certainly know all about him, which is pleasing to see. The All Blacks guys have been doing their homework. Moefana obviously comes in for Fickou. For Dante at the number 12 jersey. Fikkou's at 13. Moefana, I had a look at his numbers, man. I mean, they're very similar to Dante when he plays 12. He carries about as much. He tackles a little bit less. Maybe doesn't quite win as much turnover ball, but gets a little bit more in terms of his running game. Maybe a little bit less passing from him, believe it or not. But he's a very, very apt replacement. And then Fickou is going to be Mr. Everywhere, linking up in the back line. Penaud has been one of the top try scorers, been one of the top guys for breaking tackles out on that right wing. He's been very consistent for France and expect more of that. Villiere is the pocket rocker on the left. Again, deceptively strong. And we'll be looking to bust tackles against Will Jordan. That's a good matchup on its own. And then Ramos there at fullback. Maybe under a little pressure at the back because the French did concede a couple of tries from high balls being lost against Australia, but certainly very, very reliable goal kicker and can link up as well in attack. So despite the injuries, it is still a very good looking French squad. Moefana, Baptiste, Cros, and Alldritt are your prop and hooker replacements, all very capable. Romain Taukei'aho, like I mentioned, is your kind of big unit guy on the bench. They may have been tempted to start him in replacement as a direct replacement for Villiere, but I guess they're going to look to bring a bit of beef off the bench with him. Penaud is the kind of guy who's seen as a bit of a forward, a bit of a Quacker Smith style forward who can replace in the back line if needs be, and then 3 backs, not the 6-2 split this time. So it's Luku, your halfback, Vincent, who can cover midfield and even the outside backs if needs be, and then Jean-Baptiste is, I guess, fullback and wing replacement, but also another one of those kind of very reliable French goal-kicking fullbacks. So that is the French squad. They are at home. They are the 3rd-ranked team in the world. They are a team, since Fabien Galtier took over, not very often beaten in France. New Zealand, they go into this one 4th in the world, having had a bit of a shock to the system after a great run in 2023. It was brought to a very abrupt end by the Springboks at Twickenham a couple of weeks ago. They've kept the side relatively stable, but they've also got injury troubles of their own. Ethan de Groot, Cody Taylor, and Nepo Laulala are your front row. So de Groot's the only guy who's kept on from that Springboks match. Cody Taylor was, I guess, rested for that match because apparently Dane Coles wanted to have a swan song at Twickenham. So he comes back into the 23. Coles is out, and then Nepo Laulala steps in for Lomax, who picked up a big cut to his leg. He is still in the squad and hopefully going to, recover quickly, because Lomax has essentially been the best scrummaging tight head in New Zealand for a wee while now. A bit of pressure on Laulala to kind of match those standards. But to be honest, both France and New Zealand had a little bit of struggles at scrum time in their last games before the World Cup, so that's genuinely one in a bit of balance. Whitelock and Barrett is your second row. That's probably fortunate for the All Blacks because remember, Retallick is still not quite 100%. Ian Foster said he thinks he's 100%, but Fozzie doesn't quite agree that he's there yet, so they've not had to risk him for this one. Scotty Barrett, remember, not getting banned after that incident with Malcolm Marx in that final game, so it means the All Blacks can kind of continue steady as she goes there. And to be fair, apart from that bit of bad discipline, Scott Barrett has been having a cracking season. Dalton Papali'i comes in at 6. Remember, Shannon Frizzell is another one of the guys who is out with injury for the All Blacks. He's more of an open side, so expect to see him getting over the ball alongside Sam Cane. 13 tackles, I think, is the average for Sam Cane in the last few games, so he is certainly the tackling machine guy for the All Blacks. And then Ardie Savea, I guess a similar bit of pressure for him as what Antoine Dupont has for France. He is basically seen as our best player. He carries, he offloads, he tackles, he scores tries, he sets up tries. He's got a hell of a dummy pass on him. When I say a hell of a dummy pass, it's bizarre. But if it works, it works. It doesn't usually, but you never know. He's had luck with it at least once before, but yeah. He's there at number 8. So the forward pack's pretty steady. Aaron Smith-Mo'unga continue on at 9-10. I feel like Mo'unga's been in pretty good form. A lot of people were a bit critical of him in that last game against the Boks, but then other people said, nah, man, in a tough situation with a forward pack under the pump, he did it right, especially defensively. Geordie Barrett, like the French are missing their 12, we're missing ours, so he's got a bit of a niggle with his knee. So Anton Lienert-Brown comes up from the bench to play 12. He's Mr. Versatile, although he's not had that much rugby in recent while. And then Rico Ioane continues on at 13. He's a genuine gas man. And then back 3 of Mark Talia, Will Jordan, and Bodie Barrett. It's pretty tasty, man. Will Jordan is a very elusive runner, to put it mildly. Mark Talia has been busting tackles for fun. And then Bodie continues on that dual playmaker role with Richie. Bench-wise, Taukei'aho, Tuangafasi, and Newell are our prop and hooker replacements. Samasoni Taukei'aho certainly brings some impact from the bench. Tupa Vaa'i is our lock replacement, who's like Woki, also very good in the air. Jacobson drops to the bench after starting in that game against the Boks. Finlay Christie is preferred to Cam Roigard as a bit more of an experienced campaigner. As your backup halfback, David Havili is there, another guy who's not had a lot of game time. And then Lester Fainga'nuku covering the outside backs and potentially the midfield if needs be. Stats-wise, these teams have got pretty similar pack weights, so there shouldn't be much of an advantage there, although the French squad is slightly younger. New Zealand and France are two of the best sides at creating clean break opportunities, which could potentially make for a bit of an open game. And recently, New Zealand's actually been offloading a wee bit more than France. France in recent times have been the number 1 side for offloads, but New Zealand have kind of reclaimed that title. But France have been scoring a lot of their tries from kicks. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a thing. Little dinking kicks through to find space. Penaud scored one last week from a kick. I feel like they scored at least two against the Aussies from kicks. So the All Blacks will have to certainly watch the space behind them. But as I said, they have been a little bit vulnerable under the high ball in that last game. So the All Blacks may look to exploit that. But they don't have Geordie Barrett, who's a great guy at chasing high balls with that extra bit of height of his. The French line-out percentage in recent times has been better than the All Blacks. But the All Blacks scrum percentage has been a bit better. One thing that could be pretty crucial between the sides, especially when you're thinking World Cup, is the goal kicking. The French goal kicking has been really on song, 88%, whereas the All Blacks are down at 69%. So if it comes down to kicks, you can put your money on the French. Also, the French have been quick starters. Of all the Tier 1 teams recently, they are scoring the majority of their points. I think it's this year. They're their best quarter, if you divide the game up into 20-minute slots, is that first quarter, although the All Blacks are not too far behind there. And interestingly, for the French, the amount of points they concede per quarter actually goes up every quarter. So they concede the fewest points in the opening 20 and concede the most points in the final 20. So you never know. The All Blacks are well renowned for kind of final 20 minutes chasing down of games. You never know, that could be a factor in this one. Recent history between the sides isn't that recent. Remember, the French toured New Zealand back in 2018, a 3-match series, which the All Blacks won all 3 games. The All Blacks toured France in 2017 and won that one. So 4 of those wins coming from the All Blacks. But the most recent game they played was back in 2021. And the All Blacks got a bit of a wake-up call with a 40 points to 25 defeat, which was some of the most majestic rugby we've seen played against the All Blacks by any team. So that was pretty messy. Average score across the last 5 games is 38-19 to the All Blacks, but as I said, only one of those games is a Fabien Gaultier French side and an Ian Foster All Black side. So if you're looking at kind of head-to-head between the coaches, it's 1-0 to France. The bookies have got this one pretty much at evens. Maybe half a point to the All Blacks, and the Rugby Forecast algorithm says France by 1. So this one is genuinely looking to be a coin toss as to which way it goes. There's a lot to like about both sides. Both sides have got a few niggling injuries, a few guys out. But yeah, we're about to see what they can do at a Rugby World Cup. Check your local broadcasters. I also did a video on how you can watch the game, so I'll put a link up in the description for you guys looking for a potentially cheaper option, or if you don't have a broadcast in your territory, VPN, put a link down in the description to Express. I was using it to jump on ITV. You generally need to use incognito so they don't grab your cookies and see where you're at, but you're able to jump on ITV and watch the games for free on there. Also, they are for free broadcast in France. You can maybe jump on the free Irish broadcaster, so there's certainly a few options for you guys to watch. If you want to check the Super Brew pool before it starts, we've got a 2 Cents Rugby Super Brew pool. It's a 9:15 local kickoff in France, so it's a little bit of a late one, but for you French guys, I think that's kind of normal, which is great for us in New Zealand because it's after 7 in the morning, which is kind of perfect to get up in the morning, have some breakfast. Jaco the South African, is the ref. Should be a pretty fascinating one. Subscribe to the channel, folks. Talk to you again soon. Bye.